My name's Angelo, and welcome to We Want Picks. I'm going to break down the entire UFC Orlando fight card, giving you my picks, my predictions, and my bets. And speaking of predictions and bets, we've been crushing it. This is a snapshot of the last 3 weeks. If you've been following along and you're a premium member and you've been tailing the bets, you would be up a net 38 units over the last 3 events, which is the last 3 weeks. Last night specifically at UFC Vegas 65, I went 9-2 on picks. Jacob went 8-3. We are both up units. Prize Picks hit, Knockout Kings hit. Underdog was refunded because the main event was canceled. And our updated 2-leg premium member only parlay hit. Obviously, Spivak was in it. That fight was canceled, so we rebuilt it halfway through the event, and that hit. We're just absolutely crushing it lately, so hopefully this success continues into UFC Orlando. Become a premium member. I just mentioned I gave you 38 units. 38 units. If a unit is only $10 for you, a lot of people, oh, what's a unit? Let's say you're only betting $10, right? A unit is then $10. I just gave you 38. If it's only $10, I gave you more than 3 full years of premium membership. Sign up now. We already have some UFC Orlando bets up there. We have DraftKings, fantasy, all sorts of prop games. We have content for every single medium ever where you could make money watching fights. WeWantPicks.com at the top. Click Become a Member. It is only $10 a month. That is $2.50 a week. And if you want $50 for free, all you need to do is go to WeWantPicks.com/bets, sign up with any one of our betting partners, make a deposit, and we will send you $50 as a thank you. This is very simple. They pay us if you use our link, and then we pay you as a thank you. It's all simple. We're all taking care of each other. WeWantPicks.com/bets. Sign up, make a deposit. I'll send you $50 Cash App, PayPal, Venmo, however you want it. Let's jump into the UFC Orlando fight card. And opening up that card, we have Yazmin Jauregui taking on Istela Nunes. There's no way that's her name. Yazmin Jauregui is a powerful striker. She's got a really promising career in front of her. She's got fantastic pressure, impressive combinations. She'll enter the pocket with a high kick, and then she'll finish that entry with overhands and uppercuts. If she smells blood, she will just absolutely throw everything at you to try to get that finish. As impressive as her striking is, her grappling is solid as well. She's got fantastic body lock takedowns and takedown defense that she uses to end up on top. She is coming off a decision in her UFC debut where she defended the takedowns and managed the striking. Istela Nunes is coming off back-to-back losses in the UFC, which was after a 3-year layoff from a USADA suspension. She only has 9 MMA fights to her name, but she does have an enormous of professional kickboxing experience. She's very fast. She's got solid power, incredibly versatile striking offense. She throws kicks from anywhere, and then she'll throw them to anywhere. Like, she'll light up your legs, she'll light up your head, and she does it all very fast. She does have holes in her grappling that both Sam Hughes and Ariana Carnelozzi were able to exploit. Yazmin's almost a 4-1 favorite, and that is absolute insanity. She is a very good striker, and she does have a promising career, but Istela was a genuine professional kickboxer, and this fight likely ends up being a kickboxing match. Even in her loss to Sam Hughes, Istela was lightning fast with great kicks and hands. She did well hitting Hughes on her feet, but then she was just out-wrestled when she came in a little too close to range. But halfway through the second round, she did start to gas, and that's ultimately what did her in. The point being, yes, Istela Nunes has 2 losses in the UFC, but she's very good, and those previous matchups were very different than this matchup. I'm still going to pick Yazmin here, but that's literally only because Istela gassed. If Istela didn't gas in that Sam Hughes fight, she'd be the pick, because I think this is a kickboxing match, and she's the better kickboxer, but she's probably going to slow down again, just like she did in the last fight. Do not just look at I know a lot of you just look at fight odds and then you just blindly place bets, right? Oh, this is a huge favorite. Let me take this huge favorite and that huge favorite and put them together. Do not do that in this fight, especially not with Yazmin, but she is the pick. Then we got Marcelo Rojo taking on UFC debut Francis Marshall. And Francis Marshall is a heavy-handed grappler who comes forward with power and speed to set up his traditional takedowns and grappling. He's comfortable striking, but he's almost too comfortable. He'll keep his hands a little low. He'll throw out long jabs and hooks. When he shoots, they are well-timed and they're full of energy. He's young in his career, and he is hit more than he should be, but he does a nice job baiting you into a striking match. You're having some success hitting him. You think you're in a kickboxing match, and then he's going to blast double right through you. Marcelo Rojo is a very exciting fighter who comes forward with solid pressure and hands. His offensive wrestling can use some work, but his wrestling defense is solid. He has a take one to give one style, but unfortunately for him, it's more than take one. He's taking two to give one. He's got a wild negative striking differential of almost 5 to 7. This dude is hit a lot. He's 0-2 in the UFC, but he is better than his record. His loss to Charles Jourdain on paper does not tell the whole story. He was winning that fight, and it was short notice, but then he gassed, and he ended up being stopped later in the third round. This is a tricky fight to pick, and I'm telling you right now, you should not bet on this fight. Marcelo Rojo is an absolute dog that is always going to be grinding and always looking for that win. Francis Marshall is a talented kid, but he's very early in his career, and I do think Francis is going to get this done. But if he wants to stand toe-to-toe with somebody like Rojo, who does not care if he's in a firefight, then Francis could have some issues. Ultimately, I think he's going to get the takedowns, potentially a submission because we know how skilled he is there, but I'm just going to be watching this, no bets. Francis is going to be the pick, but I hate betting on these UFC debuts with, not a lot of experience versus these older, gritty vet type guys. Then we got Natan Levy taking on Genaro Valdez. Natan Levy's a very good grappler who grapples every opportunity he can get, meaning he's wasting no time on his feet. He's immediately looking for trip-style takedowns. If you throw kicks, he's going to catch them, and then he's going to go from there. He's very good on the ground, but he almost gets too excited and ends up losing positions while chasing submissions. And this is just from lack of experience that'll probably come with time. He's coming off the win over Mike Breeden, where he was a bit hittable, but he won with 9 total takedowns and just relentless pressure. Genaro Valdez is an incredibly well-rounded fighter. He's primarily a grappler, but he also has absolutely no issues getting into a slugfest. His striking can be wild, but it is fun, and he uses it really well to set up his takedowns. He's 1-1 in the UFC. His Contender Series win was impressive with 4 takedowns in less than 6 minutes, and his last fight was an early KO loss to Matt Frevola, and that loss is holding up a little better than it did back in January. Natan Levy's almost a 2-1 favorite here. That feels appropriate to me. Like, he didn't look perfect in his last fight, but he did show improvements and just sheer grit. Genaro Valdez can strike and grapple, and he could be a problem for Natan if he pushes the grappling early like Rafa Garcia did to Natan. But I think Natan's pace is going to be too much, and while it might be a nail-biter, I think he's ultimately going to get the win here. We're a few weeks out, but I'm probably going to be looking at that takedown prop bet. If you don't know what that is, we've been cashing those left and right. Bet Online is our favorite sports book, and they drop the Tuesday before fights takedown prop lines. So they'll say Natan Levy, 3 takedowns, minus 120 over, minus 120 under. And then you can bet either side of that. Obviously, I'm not going to do a 3 takedown line. But we just cashed on Miles Johns at a half a takedown line. So there's opportunities there. Keep an eye on it. If you're a premium member, you will get an alert to your phone the very second those bets drop and we place them. If you're not, become one at WeWantPicks.com, or at least sign up with BetOnline through our link and we'll pay you. Go to WeWantPicks.com/bets, sign up, we'll send you $50 after you make your first deposit. Then we have a very interesting fight. We got Tracy Cortez taking on Amanda Ribas. Tracy Cortez is a fantastic wrestler. Historically, her striking is just okay, and her stats are a bit deceiving because she's listed at having a positive striking differential. But let's factor in all the things, right? She's getting 3 takedowns per fight. She's spending the majority of her fights on top. So when she's on top, she's landing and not getting hit. So the fact that she is hit with almost 3 significant strikes per minute when she's in control most of the fights, that's not great, right? She's losing the exchanges on her feet. But the reality is that she is a wrestler and she is always looking to get it to the ground. She's coming off that 29-28 win over Melissa Gatto, where she only had 2 takedowns, but she had more total strikes and more control time. Amanda Ribas is a pretty complete fighter. She started her career as a grappler, but she's added the striking and she's now comfortable everywhere. Her striking stats are fantastic. She's got a 4-2 striking differential and solid wrestling. She has takedowns in every single UFC fight, and she has an impressive 88% takedown defense. She's coming off that controversial loss to Caitlin Chikagian where she had more total strikes, 3 takedowns, and a full round of control time. I am going to go with Tracy Cortez here, but I think the bookies, the bookies are going to be surprised with the action that comes in. Amanda is a tiny favorite, which makes sense, right? She's more well-rounded. With that being said, I do think the non-stop wrestling pace of Tracy is ultimately going to get her the win. Amanda's takedown defense has held up so far, but Verna Jandaroba's takedown attempts hit a little different than Tracy Cortez's. So I have 1.5 unit money line on Tracy Cortez, but that was an accident. I already had a full unit on her. And then, a week later, I'm doing more research, doing stuff. And I'm like, yeah, let me throw a little bit on Tracy Cortez. So I threw a half a unit on her, forgetting I already had the unit on her. So I have 1.5. And if you're a premium member and you see that there, don't just think, wow, 1.5. He must be stupid confident. I am confident. I think she gets it done. I think the wrestling is the difference. Don't let the size of the bet fool you. I think she wins, but this is a close-ish type fight. Then we have Darren the Damage Elkins taking on Jonathan Pearce, whose JSP is his. I hate that nickname. Just be your own person. You're going to steal GSPs? Come on, be your own person. Anyway, Darren Elkins. He's incredibly tough. He's absolutely never out of a fight. He's always live for a finish, and he is the definition of a grinder. He comes forward with heavy strikes to close the distance, cuts off the cage, and then works in his grappling. He's a pretty good wrestler with incredible top pressure. He's coming off that win over Tristan Connolly, where he worked in 5 takedowns and 8 minutes of control time for that win. Jonathan Pearce is a solid wrestler himself who sets a nice pace, both on his feet and on the ground. He's got decent takedowns and good BJJ. He averages almost 7 takedowns per fight with 5 takedowns against Kai Kamaka, 6 against Omar Morales, and 6 against Christian Rodriguez. As soon as he gets his takedowns, he's looking to strike, and he's typically looking for a TKO instead of a submission. In 17 UFC fights in his career, he's only been to a decision twice. He leaves it all out there, and it's obvious when you see his pace. He's very fun to watch and has a take one to give one type striking style. He's coming off that win over Makwan Amirkhani where he had 4 takedowns and the eventual KO. Jonathan Pearce, a pretty heavy favorite here. And I think he should be, right? He's got good hands, great grappling. He's a pretty durable guy other than, his couple of losses where he was finished, but he is durable for the most part. The one thing that concerns me here, though, is while he took down Makwan Amirkhani 4 times, he was also taken down 3 times. And Darren Elkins is definitely going to be looking for some takedowns here. Pearce is going to be the pick because he's got power in his hands and he can grapple. But I'm going to need him to start grappling early and first and not waiting for Elkins, because if he's waiting, he can certainly end up on the wrong side of a decision because Darren Elkins is also averaging almost 3 takedowns per fight. So Jonathan Pearce is the pick, but we're going to want him to wrestle. Then we have just legend at this point. Not legend because he was a former champion, but this guy has been around for a million years and he's fought everybody. Michael Johnson taking on Marc Diakiese. Michael Johnson is a tried and true vet, right? He's fought everybody. He's had an incredibly tough competition slate, and it's easy to look at his 18 losses and assume he isn't very good, but let's take a closer look. His losses are to people like Beneil Dariush, Nate Diaz, Khabib, Justin Gaethje, and most recently, a short notice split decision loss to Jamie Mullarkey. Skill-wise, he's pretty good everywhere. He's a talented striker who does not have a ton of power, but he does have nice footwork. He's got a positive striking differential at around a half a strike, which is impressive considering all of his opponents and the longevity of his career. Marc Diakiese is a very good kickboxer who has become somewhat of a wrestler lately. Striking-wise, he's got a ton of power and he sets everything up with big leg kicks and body shots. He's a guy who likes to invest early for a payoff in later rounds. Wrestling-wise, he has worked in 19 takedowns in his last 2 fights with 26 minutes of control time. And the live crowd has been booing him for this, but all it has actually done is make him even more of a dangerous fighter, and it's always hard to just dismiss Michael Johnson. He is 1-4 in his last 5, but again, he has fought only the best for 12 years in the UFC. He has wins over people like Edson Barbosa and Dustin Poirier. His losses have all pretty much been relatively close, It's not like a Frankie Edgar situation where he's just aging, getting put out. Even though I think Michael can be competitive, I don't think he's going to be winning these sort of high-level fights anymore. I think the pressure from Marc Diakiese is just going to be a little too much with the volume. I think he's potentially going to work in some takedowns, and he's just going to grind out an overall very solid win over a solid vet. So Marc Diakiese is the pick. And speaking of legends, we got Clay Guida taking on Scott Holtzman. Clay Guida is absolutely a legend, and even at 41 years old with 49 fights, he can still hang. He's definitely starting to slow down, but even a slow Clay Guida is a very high-paced guy with great cardio, relentless wrestling, and solid striking. He makes up for any technical gaps just with speed, volume, and pace. He's coming off that loss to Claudio Puelles, where he was only able to land 3 strikes before he was knee-barred. But despite Claudio's pathetic butt-scooting performance in his last fight, we know how dangerous he can be in the grappling. Scott Holtzman is a busy striker who doesn't have one-punch KO power, but he can get stoppages with volume and pressure. He averages more than 2 takedowns per fight, but that seemed to be earlier in his UFC career. He has 18 takedowns in his first 6 UFC fights, but only 3 in his next 6. A Scott Holtzman who strikes and threatens takedown is a very dangerous guy, but he's only striking. He can give up takedowns himself and then be ridden out. He's coming off back-to-back KO losses to Gamrot and Dariush, but he took a year off, did it the right way, and now he's heading back. This is a very interesting fight because Clay's going to be live to grind out a fighter, and Scott Holtzman has been taken down and ridden out in the past. Nick Lentz was able to take him down 5 times and rack up 7 minutes of control time. If Clay comes in and starts grappling, he can catch Holtzman off guard and snatch the win. I just don't see that happening, though. I think Scott will be a step ahead in the striking, and even if he doesn't offensively wrestle, he should be able to dominate the striking so much that Clay's taking bad shots that should hopefully be easily defended. So Clay is not dangerous, right? He's not a dangerous fighter. He's winning grinding decisions. So without that danger element at play here, I think Scott can settle in, get his hands going, pick his shots, and win this fight. I want to see these guys go out on top like a Clay Guida, Michael Johnson. We were all hoping for that with Frankie Edgar. I don't think he's going to get the win here, but hopefully, there's not too much damage absorbed. Scott Holtzman is the pick here to bleed, maybe our favorite UFC legend, Clay Guida. Then we got Angela Hill, fresh off the upset win over Lupi, taking on Emily Ducote. Angela Hill is a high IQ fighter with pretty solid striking. She's good in her feet. She's fast, has lots of versatility and volume, but not really any power. She's a talented fighter who has become sort of the gatekeeper and the measuring stick of this division. She's good everywhere, but she's not really a threat, meaning she's not dangerous. Her path to victory in this and every other fight is to stick and move, avoid power, avoid takedowns. She's coming off that shocking upset over Lupita Godinez, where she went 1 for 6 in takedowns and landed fewer total and significant strikes. Emily Ducote is the former Invicta champion who stepped up on short notice to win her UFC debut. Style-wise, she's a slick counter-striker with legitimate power for the division and very good wrestling. She's durable and accurate. What she does well is throw straight punches and then just come right down the middle. So if you play that outside or start to look for, looping shots, she's going to stay nice and straight, right up the middle, tag you, and then move back out. She's coming off that win over Jessica Penne where she doubled her strikes. Angela Hill is tricky because you don't know what you're going to get, right? She went out there and stunk up the joint against Verna Jandiroba, but then she beat the incredibly tough Lupi. Typically, she uses range to dance around and rack up points. I just don't think that's going to work here. I think Emily's too active, too accurate, and throws her punches too straight up the middle for Angela to be dancing around or try some looping shots. That's going to take away the length of Angela, so I think Emily's going to get this done. I think she cruises her way to a decision win. Then we got everybody's, I don't want to say everybody's favorite fighter because most people probably don't even know who he is, but nobody has ever watched a Niko Price fight and wasn't entertained. And now he's taking out Philip Rowe. Niko Price is incredibly fun. He has a willingness to put himself in harm's way, literally just for us, just for the fans. He's got solid striking, good submissions. He has a knockout KO off his back, which is forever going to be a highlight reel. And he's just a blast to watch. And he could beat anyone on any day with sheer determination, will, and just wildness. He's coming back after a year off and a win over Alex Oliveira. Philip Rowe is long and a high-volume striker who does a great job using his length and range. His ground game is fantastic, but his wrestling could definitely use some work. And despite managing range well, he can be a bit hittable with almost 4 significant strikes per minute. He's coming off that win over Jason Witt where he was taken down, he was being dominated in the grappling, and then eventually found the KO in the second. Philip Rowe is going to lose to any decent wrestler with a chin. But that's not Niko. Right, Niko can wrestle. He's got 6 takedowns in the UFC, but he also has 14 fights and only a 22% takedown accuracy. If I could trust Niko to pressure forward and stick to wrestling, he's going to be the pick. But he gets caught up in having a good time, which is going to cost him and potentially will cost him the win. Not to mention, he does live in Cape Coral, Florida. A lot of those people have family there. They are still dealing with the effects of Hurricane Ian. There are complete areas destroyed. Everybody needs a new roof. They didn't have power for weeks. That's just a lot to deal with. Niko's got a wife. He's got kids. That's a lot to deal with. I don't know how prepared he's going to be. And I feel like he's on this card because it's in Orlando and they're trying to get local guys. So that's not necessarily a factor into this pick, but it's certainly a consideration. Philip Rowe is going to be the pick. That may change as we get closer to the fight. We'll see what the interviews are. For all we know, he's moved to Miami because he does train at MMA Masters. But last I heard, he was going back and forth for training and not living there overall. So Philip Rowe is going to be the pick, but Niko Price, a ton of fun and always live. Then we got Eryk Anders taking on Kyle Daukaus. Eryk Anders is a wrestler with pretty good striking. He mixes his punches and kicks together well, and he has okay speed. He does keep his hands a little too low, which has gotten him in trouble in the past, though. His path to victory in most fights, I've developed a lisp. His path to victory in most fights is his wrestling. And I'm saying wrestling and not grappling because he's not really looking for submissions. He's going to take you down, and from there, he's just going to try to beat the hell out of you. What he does really well is he just looks to hurt you everywhere. In every single exchange, he's trying to put you out. He's coming off that loss to Jun Young Park where many people think he was robbed and won that fight. Kyle Daukaus is an okay striker and a very good grappler with solid clinch work and okay boxing. He's primarily a grappler. He's got only a 31% takedown accuracy, but a very impressive 86% takedown defense. He has a positive striking differential of around 3 to 2.5, but he was just put out by Roman Dolidze in June. And I might just be a Kyle Daukaus hater here, but I just don't understand how he's the favorite in this fight. His chin is suspect. His striking is mediocre. He can't control the grappling because he has no control over the wrestling. So if he can't get the takedowns, who's to say he's going to be in grappling positions? And it's not like he's just going to snatch something out of nowhere. He's a very good grappler, but he's not a Claudio Playlist without the butt scoop type grappler. And I think Eryk Anders is going to come in here and just bully the hell out of Daukaus. I think he hits harder. I think he's got better wrestling. And I think he's going to be able to avoid the submission. So as Jacob would say, Kyle is a jiu-jitsu nerd. And I just can't back him in this matchup, especially not against somebody like Eryk Anders, who's just going to let his hands absolutely fly in this fight. Now we have a pretty fun matchup. We got Derek Brunson taking on Jack Hermansson. Derek Brunson has been a dominant wrestler as of late. His striking continues to improve, and he's mixing in his wrestling really well. He has some power, and if he threatens for the takedowns, then he has more success with the power, but his chin can be a little worrisome. What's really impressive about Derek's wrestling, though, is he added it later in his career. If you look at his first 14 UFC fights, he had less than 10 takedowns total. Now in his last 6 fights, he has 22 takedowns, with 3 of them in his loss to Jared Cannonier. Jack Hermansson is a great grappler. If he takes you down, he's pretty dominant from there. His striking is solid, and while he's not going to be knocking anyone out anytime soon, he has showed dramatic improvements. What I like about Jack is that he's going to stick to his game plan and have success. What I don't like about Jack is his game plan, because his game plan is wrestling, but he's got a low 27% takedown accuracy. He's coming off that win over Chris Curtis where he went 0 for 6 on takedown attempts, but he did outstrike Chris, who was supposed to be the better striker, and he outstriked him 100 to 43. And this is an interesting matchup because Derek is going to have more raw power in his feet, but Jack showed that he can have volume and success. Derek's going to have the far better wrestling, but Jack has proven many times that he could submit anyone in a flash. The only way I see Derek winning this fight is getting the takedowns and avoiding the submissions, which I actually think he can do. I like Derek to shoot the takedowns, keep a tight guard, avoid the submissions. Jack doesn't have much power in his feet to knock Derek out, so I'm not going to be worried about that. But certainly, Jack Hermansson is ridiculously dangerous. This is a very good matchup. And frankly, this whole UFC Orlando main card feels like a pay-per-view main card without a title fight main event. This is a great matchup. This is a great card. I'm going with Derek Brunson as the early pick. Then we have Tai Tuivasa, and he is taking on Sergey Pavlovich. Tai Tuivasa is a heavy-handed striker, but he has solid volume, and he mixes in kicks really well. He has also been fast and powerful lately, especially for his size, but he's much sharper and much more composed in his last, let's say, 5 fights as opposed to his first couple. Tuivasa has fantastic leg kicks, a piercing jab, and big overhand. His takedown defense is just okay at 52%, and he has 0 offensive takedowns in the UFC. You could argue that Tuivasa's biggest asset is his chin, right? He's got that cement head, and he's not a guy that you're going to knock out easily, but we've seen some cracks recently. He's coming off that loss to Cyril Gane where he was this close to winning by knockout. You're going to look on paper and see that he lost. He was ridiculously close to winning that fight by knockout. Sergey Pavlovich is also a fantastic striker. Mostly a boxer, but he's got great power in his hands and incredible speed for heavyweight. His striking volume is impressive, and he trusts his chin enough to stand in the pocket and bomb away. Trusting his chin can be a problem in this matchup, but his speed may keep him one step ahead. Like Tuivasa, he also has 0 takedowns in the UFC and a first-round knockout win over Derek Lewis. I'm loving the dogs on this main card. Sergey is obviously very dangerous, but Tai has the same power, better leg kicks, and I think a better chin. I like Tai to do what he does, which is come forward, throw heavy, and then drink a beer out of a stranger's shoe. Obviously, these are heavyweights, and either one of them can be put out, but I like Tai here. I like him for the experience, the kicks, the chin, but the best play here, save your money on bets because, God knows it's heavyweights. Maybe the under, if they're dumb enough to do a 2.5 round line, which they will not be. Go with Monkey Knife Fight Knockout Kings. If you don't know what Monkey Knife Fight is, it's daily fantasy. They have a game in there called Knockout Kings. You pick any 3 fighters on a fight card, and if one of them wins by KO or TKO, you get paid. We just got paid. We had Jack Della Maddalena and doubled up the main event for UFC Vegas 65. Both main event fighters were dropped, and we still hit Knockout Kings. We still got paid because Jack Della Maddalena. So it's the easiest game in the world. You can make some serious money. Go to WeWantPicks.com/MKF. Sign up using promo code WWP, and they will instantly match your deposit. Then we have Matheus Nicolai taking on Matt Schnell. Matheus Nicolai is a good, clean striker who is technical, but he's not really comfortable, if that makes sense. He can be robotic at times, and his striking doesn't flow as nicely as you would like it to. Matheus is a very competent grappler, though, with 9 takedowns in his 6 UFC wins. He gets you to the ground, and he will stick with control and work towards a submission when it presents itself, instead of just chasing something that isn't there. He's coming off the decision win over David Dvorak, where he was able to showcase his power. Matt Schnell is a very good counter striker with solid BJJ. He does an amazing job getting you to follow him so he can plant his feet and fire back with combinations. He loves doing this off leg kicks as well. He's going to end an exchange with a leg kick, back up, and then do it all over again. His BJJ is slick, and he snatches things up and scrambles as well. But while he can be slick on the ground, he does struggle to get it there with a low 44% takedown accuracy. He's coming off that insane come-from-behind win over Sudamarji, where he was basically dead. And then he rose from the ashes and got that late second round knockout. And this could be a really fun fight. Matheus Nicolai, he can be stiff striking. His technique is clean, but we do know he has power. Matt Schnell has proven to be impressive. He can get you out of there. And while his takedowns aren't the best, his submissions are great. And Nicolai will definitely get it to the ground. I think overall Nicolai's the better fighter, but this is the type of matchup where the tougher fighter can snatch up the win. Ultimately, I got to go with Matheus Nicolai here because he's going to be the better fighter. He's the more well-rounded fighter. And I can't just pick somebody because they're just tough. But Matt Schnell has proven that he's so tough and he can come from behind to snatch something. But I'm still going to go with Nicolau as the pick. Betting-wise, I don't know what I'm going to do, but when I do it, if you're a premium member, you will find out instantly. So head on over to WeWantPicks.com, click Become a Member. It's only $10 a month. And then as we place bets, you will get alerts through your phone as long as you link your Discord, and that's all free. WeWantPicks.com, click Become a Member. The very minute that we're placing bets, we're letting you know, and you're going to get ahead of a lot of this line movement and get some really solid closing line value, especially on a card like this, where we have the Thanksgiving break and people may not be focused, so we can get some lines before they really start to go crazy a couple days before the fight. Then we got co-main event of the evening. We have RDA taking on Bryan Barberena. Rafael Dos Anjos is the former lightweight champion of the world. He's incredibly well-rounded, but is more of a grappler than anything. He's developed clean striking with some solid volume that's going to trick people into thinking he's going to strike with them before he starts working his grappling. It's easy to say, well, he's 2-3 in his last 5, but if you look at who he lost to Leon Edwards, current champion, Michael Chiesa, that was at 170 pounds, both of those, and then just recently, Rafael Fiziev, who we potentially could be champion by the end of 2023. And while he was brutalized in that Fiziev fight, he was able to take him down twice and rack up 6 minutes of Control Town. He took him to Control Town with 6 minutes of control time. Bryan Barberena is a fun brawler who likes to come forward. He has a good gas tank. He is a busy striker. He's not very technical, but he's just technical enough. And he's got enough gas and pressure to make up for those holes. He's got decent wrestling and grappling, but almost never uses it. A few years ago, he had a great chin. It's probably starting to fade a little bit. He's in so many wars that, those are going to take minutes and then hours and then years off of you. But what makes him so fun is his entire game plan is get hit, come forward, then hit his opponent. And he's coming off that KO win over Robbie Lawler. We had him in that underdog spot. You hate to see Robbie Lawler go out like that, but that was a great win for Bryan Barberena for sure. And picking these fights with these aging vets are always tricky. RDA is absolutely the better fighter pretty much everywhere. He's going to be the more technical striker. He's going to be the much better grappler. He's going to have higher fight IQ. He's fought the higher level of competition. He's literally going to be better everywhere. But he's 38 years old, and he's only had 2 fights in 2 years. He's coming off that first KO loss since 2016. The only thing keeping me on the RDA side in this fight is that while Bryan Barberena is tough, he's got a 44% takedown defense, and outside of his last fight, we have not seen one-punch KO power from him. So RDA is the pick because I trust him to grapple early. I trust him to grapple often. The bet, however, I'm definitely going to do a takedown prop bet here. Bet Online, one of our betting partners, does takedown prop lines. So they're probably going to set him at like 2 takedowns. And then I'm going to hit the more. Maybe they do 2.5. I'm going to hit the more because I think he's going to get takedown after takedown and just control from there. And Bryan Barberena, we know for a fact, can be taken down. I don't want to say easily, but he gets taken down. He gets ridden out. If you want to find out the very second that we place that bet, make sure you're a premium member. WeWantPicks.com. At the top, click Become a Member. It is only $10 a month. That's $2.50 a week. And these last 3 weeks, I have given you 38 units of net profit. So hop on that train and let's cash in at UFC Orlando. Then we have the main event of the evening. We finally have Stephen Thompson against a striker, Kevin Holland against a striker. So let's see how good these guys are. We got Wonder Boy Thompson taking on Kevin Holland. And Stephen Thompson is one of my favorite fighters. He's got that karate-style striking that works really well for him. He uses low hands and that wide base to bounce in and out. He comes in, cracks you, and then he just leaves. He's not a power guy, but his footwork and movement are very impressive, and he can catch a lot of people off guard. He has wins over George Masvidal, Johnny Hendricks, and Vicente Luque, but he is coming off 2 grappling heavy losses in a row to Belal Muhammad and Gilbert Burns. Kevin Holland is an accurate and powerful striker who has miserable takedown defense, but solid grappling. Other than the wrestling, though, Kevin is a killer. He's a sniper on his feet with great accuracy and range. He can also grapple really well, but the problem is he can't control if it stays on his feet or gets to the ground. But on the ground, he's got some solid jiu-jitsu. Tim Means was able to take him down twice, and then he submitted him in the second round. He's coming off the loss to Khamzat, which if you remember, that was a short notice scramble mix-up. He thought he was going to be fighting a striker. He ended up getting a grappler, and then he was just essentially mauled, which happens. But I'm so glad Kevin Holland came out of retirement for this fight. We're finally going to get to see both of these guys fight strikers. And it's been a while since Wonderboy fought a striker. He is on that 2-fight skid. But again, those were heavy grapplers. And Kevin is 1-1 in his last 2. But both of those matchups were against grapplers. And this is a tough fight to pick because I think Wonderboy is the overall better striker. But he's 39. He's 39 years old. Kevin Holland has power and accuracy. But we haven't seen him fight a technical striker like Thompson. We keep saying he's such a good striker, but we have not seen him in a technical striking matchup to see how good he actually is. I am going to go with Wonderboy here. I think his age is going to worry the shit out of me this whole fight. But I like him to bounce in and out. I like him to touch up Kevin. Hopefully the chin holds up. I am going to wait for prop bets to drop because this is even money, and I don't necessarily trust Kevin's chin enough for an even money. I was hoping he'd be, a good-sized dog, honestly. But the bet is probably going to be Kevin Holland inside the distance decision, no action. Because I think Wonderboy can beat Kevin a decision. But Kevin can put out Wonderboy. He's 39. He's been put out before. It's been a while, but he's been put out before. So, the more dangerous fighter is going to get the prop bet. Soon as that drops, I'm going to place it. If you're a premium member, you'll see that. So make sure you become a premium member at WeWantPicks.com. If you want to find out where to get that prop bet, go to WeWantPicks.com/bets. BetOnline is our only partner that offers that. So if Kevin Holland wins inside the distance, you're going to get paid. If he loses a decision, you'll get a full refund. That bet never happened. And the only way you actually lose the money is if Kevin Holland gets stopped, which I really don't see here. So obviously, that prop bet hasn't dropped yet, but when it does, we'll take a look at the odds. If you sign up through our link, we'll go ahead and send you $50. Don't forget, become a premium member. It's only $10 a month, and it will remain $10 a month forever. We are never going to touch that price point, and we're rolling out new features every single week. You're going to get all the bets, all the picks, confidence picks, raw notes, monkey knife fight plays, prize picks plays, underdog fantasy plays, an entire DraftKings slate of ownership, salary rankings, a DraftKings optimizer, FanDuel slates, FanDuel rankings. All the amount of content you're getting for $10 is absolute insanity. And I just gave you 38 units of net profit in the last 3 weeks, which will cover membership for literally forever if you have big, good size units. But if you want $50, you want to get it going, I'll send you $50. Just go to WeWantPicks.com/bets, sign up with any one of our betting partners, make a deposit using our link, and I will send you $50 as a thank you.